What's up? Welcome back to the Lifeonaire Show podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On the Lifeonaire Show, we help people live an abundant life, live a prosperous life, and create businesses to support that life. I'm joined by Polish Peter, and by the way, dude, I do say your name is Polish Peter. And This is interesting because you recently had someone think you were not of Polish origin, which I find what is your reaction to that, by the way?
What are you talking about specifically?
You had a woman who listens to the show who thought you were...
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, we had an event just recently in Wisconsin, Dells, and there was a participant who listens to the show very often, and she listens on, I think, Apple podcast, so there was no video. And from the conversations that I've had, she thought I was Asian.
Yes.
So I don't know. Maybe I have an accent that sounds Asian.
A wonderful woman, man. Yeah, she was awesome.
I love it. That thing was very
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, she was
really
very
cool.
But yeah, so I do say Polish Peter, and just in case you're wondering, yes, he's Polish. And so what we're going to talk about, dude, this time, I'm really excited about this. It's kind of like how to set a culture in your family, right? This is something that is really, really important because. And we talk about this at Get a Life Getaway too, like all those people that go to those events, or whether it's that or a business builder workshop, like the things we learn aren't just for our benefit, and they don't just affect us. They affect everyone in the circles that we are associated with, whether it's our friends, our coworkers, and certainly our family. And so one of the things that we want to talk about on this episode is kind of like how to make sure that you are setting the appropriate culture that you want to for your family. What are the things you can do to influence that? And kind of like, how do you kind of navigate this? Especially, man, family dynamics can be complicated. Family dynamics can be multifaceted. And so how do you kind of navigate this idea of having a family culture?
Yeah, I think it's a really important conversation to have, because if you really think about this, if we go back when you were a kid, right? Who did you look up to? Who did you, wanted to aspire to be like? Who did you get the most influence from? And for majority of the people, I think it's been, parents. One of the parents, or, for me, it was a lot of that stuff was uncle, right? So I looked up to him and, sitting in his workshop and all those kinds of things. So, if you really think about, there's a belief system that permeates and the things that we actually do that influence the kids in your particular life. So if you have kids, or you're looking to have kids, I think this will be a really important episode to listen to intentionally. This is the word that's really important. I think intentionally create that culture within your family.
Yeah. So how do we do that, right? So that's a real question here, because and certainly there's a different relationship between you and your kids if you have kids, and you and your spouse. But the number one thing I think that is really at the core of setting any kind of culture. And this, by the way, if let's say you're listening right now and you're like, I don't have a family, I don't have a spouse. Well, guess what? Like, you got a business, same exact thing. Like, it's the culture. Like, you're setting a culture, and a culture is essentially just a way of, reinforcing the behaviors you want while, discouraging the behaviors you don't want. And so, if you don't have a family, please listen, because it's still going to be relevant for you if you ever have a business as well. And so the number one way that we influence culture, whether it's in our family or our business, is by modeling, right? By just being that person that we want to demonstrate the behaviors, the thoughts, the actions that others we hope adopt. And, of course, And of course, your influence as to how much control you have over that differs on the position. Certainly, you're not going to enforce it the same way with a team member versus in your business versus a family member, right? So you have to have some, and we'll talk about how to do this, but it really does start with you.
Yeah. So, if you really think about this, so you have to start creating some kind of vision for yourself. What do you want that culture to be? Like when we talk about modeling, let's say you're modeling someone, right? So if that is the case, what if the kids are modeling you? So what are they modeling? Who are they modeling? One of the things that I remember back in the day, I used to have this priority list as part of my quote unquote culture that I want to empower and bring to my kids, is that I had the value system that if I really looked at my calendar, looked at what I was doing and how I was operating in life, what ended up happening was business number one, then number two was kids, number three was wife, number four was God, kind of a thing. And I'm not, too happy to be able to talk about this, but that's what it was. And what I intentionally created, designed to how does it permeate through my calendar is now it's God is number one, two is number wife, three is kids, and four is business. So what does that look like when it comes to actually putting in my calendar? So I have a morning time with the Lord, right? When it comes to spending time, like looking from the perspective of spending time with my wife, being intentional, leading her spiritually, those kinds of things. When it comes to having conversations with my kids about hanging out and spending time with them, being intentional with them, or showing them, and sometimes it's not an easiest thing to do, that let's say the wife comes first. So then when they grow up, they hopefully emulate the same kind of a way of, being in their life. So I think it's a really important aspect to look from the perspective of what does my vision say that if these people, let's say my employees or my kids, are modeling me, what is the behavior they want to emulate? What is the calendar things that I want to put out there? What is it that I am intentional about in life? And when you start putting that in place and you start, working towards it, acting that way, like for instance, gym, right? Going to the gym, being consistent with it. In fact, like it was funny because a couple of days ago, one of my students, he books his calls at 3:00, and he heard me, when I was finishing up on the call with him. He goes, "So you're heading for the gym, huh?" I'm like, "How did you know?" He's like, "Well, I booked these calls intentionally at that particular time because I know we go to the gym afterwards, right?" So setting those kinds of things in place for your life will, I think, help you create what does that modeling look like for the kids in your life.
Yeah. I love that, man. And so in your case, you kind of talked about prioritization of like things that are important. I've realized for myself, I'm at a stage now where I'm trying to model like behaviors and traits more. So for instance, like, and this is especially important. Now we can all go back and forth as to how much we have influence over our spouse. That's probably a more difficult question to answer.
That's a different episode, I think.
Yeah. Your best bet there is just to find someone the way you want them, because your chances of influencing them are much lower. And quite frankly, like you really shouldn't want to change that spouse. If you have a vision for your ideal spouse, like, and of course that's not to say you both don't increase and improve and get better and grow, but like, don't try to be a fixer. Like that's a whole other episode. I have been that fixer. Yeah. So for me, for my kids in particular, I'm trying to model the things I want them to adopt. So for instance, like the traits we talk about this a lot, and I try to really demonstrate it, is like, being kind to people, especially my kids are talking about, kids that are getting picked on at school and stuff. And I always say like, hey, listen, like, even if you're not mean to them, I expect you to stand up for those kids. And so I'm not, I know I'd hope that I'm sure, you know what, they probably are mean sometimes, they're kids, but like my hope is that they wouldn't be mean. But even so, like I want them to support other people and be kind to people. And when somebody's sad and alone on the playground, I want them to go, hey, can I play with you? Or do you want to play with me? Or something like that, I really try to emphasize like persistence and hard work. So for instance, right now we're doing these little find books where it's like hidden pictures within pictures. And, there's an answer key at the back, and my daughter will be like, I'm going to check the answer key. I'm like, no, we're going to give up. We're not going to give up. We're going to find it. We're going to finish this. We can do it. You're smart. You can do this. So I'm constantly I'm saying things like, you're smart. You got this. Like you can, and I'm trying to say like, don't give up, keep going. Like, and then when they get it, they're all excited. So like, it's persistence, it's hard work. I catch my kids trying to like lie to me. And I'll be like, did you brush your teeth? And they'll be like, no. They'll be like, yeah. And I'll look at them and they start smiling. They're like, no. And like, so I'm like, okay, well, thank you for telling the truth. Can you go do that now? Like, and hey, and we talk about not lying. And so like, these are all characteristics that, dude, like this is what makes people good people. And gives them the tools they need to succeed as they grow up. So, and of course I'm trying to model this too. Like, And so when my kids ask me a difficult question, like maybe that I feel like isn't something they're ready to hear because they're only 5 and 7,
Mhm.
but we talk about it. So yeah, Earth Day was recently, just it was just here, and I started talking about like the problem with trash we have with the and by the way, what 7-year-old wants to hear about like all the issues we have with trash, and but we started talking about it, and I don't want to lie to my kids. And so I try not to do that. Like I don't lie to my wife. And so like, these traits, this is how we set the culture, is by doing this and then encouraging it in the people around us and finding those. And it's not just in words, like, but it's, for instance, like, but you have to be careful here too, man, because I realized this the other day. I was, I thought of this because we just did an episode not too long ago on like, hiring people in your house to do stuff for you, like, like do your laundry and stuff. And I found myself like, I'm saying like, hey, we have to clean up after ourselves. But then I realized that a little thing in the back of my head is like, hey, well, at some point, maybe they shouldn't be cleaning up after themselves and they should have somebody doing it for them. But like at this age, I'm like, nope, this is appropriate. This is the message I want to send them. Like we don't leave a mess for anyone else. We clean up after ourselves. And here's another one, man. So my daughter, I have some cash lying around that I was gonna go deposit, and my daughter's like, "Can I have $5?" And I said, "For what?" And she's like, "Well, just for $5." I'm like, "Well," I'm like, "Babe, you have to do some work, honey. You have to earn this money." And we'll do, and so again, chores, right? Like the value of money. So I'm trying to teach these things. And by the way, I love doing this, dude. Like it's so much fun. They're like little sponges. But it also can bite you when you realize you made a mistake, and like, and you can. I think this is one of the most challenging things of being a parent, is like recognizing both at the same time the resilience of kids, but also like the how much they learn from us and how much they soak up from us. And that's just not kids, by the way, too. Like we have an effect on everybody. And so like that's where it's showing up for me right now.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, the fact that you talked about on the Earth Day, did you tell him that Earth is finally? Did you tell him that it's flat? The Earth is flat.
I did not. I
Okay.
should have done that. That would have been hilarious. My kids would argue like, they're like, "Dad, it's not. It's not flat."
So listen. So let me ask you this, because I think I was, in fact, like recently I was scrolling and I saw the video where it looks like it was from a garage or somewhere, like one of those cameras like that just oversees part of the area. And a couple of the kids, they were probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years old. They were playing by the truck, and one of them set the car in motion, and the car just started rolling back and just like rolled into a ditch, and it kind of got destroyed, right? And during that particular process, one of the kids almost got taken with the car, like by the door counter, but he like moved to the side and he was able to be fine. And right as the car is running towards the ditch, you see the dad running after the car, right? And there's a couple of ways that this dad could have reacted. One could have been, of anger, or of punishment, or of all kinds of different things. And another, and what he did actually, this guy on this video, he went and hugged the kids. And it's two different ways to reacting to a situation. So I think when we're looking from that perspective, like you have to look from like, what is that design for me, that how I want to react to the kids when they do something good, when they do something bad. How do I react, right? Putting that, I think, in the vision, because I think that's what teaches them what they move forward. Like, think about it this way. How many times have we heard about people who were, let's say, raised in an alcoholic, abusive home, and then they end up doing the same thing when they're adults, right?
Yeah.
So how do I design that? Like, be intentional about designing it. I think most of us in life here are not intentional about the designing what we want that culture to look like in our home. Like have some kind of like call it, I don't know, commandments, put that piece of paper. I had one of my students a while back, he took his vision and he had certain things when it comes to like your kids, how he's raising his kids and things like that. And I challenged them on how is he going to incorporate it. And what we put together in this particular session was that he was going to put his vision on the inside door of the cabinet in the kitchen that opens up to the cereal, where the cereals are. Guess who uses the cereal cabinet? Everybody in the house, especially the kids. So he put this right there so the kids can see it. And he got some insane accountability, right? But that's the kind of a culture that he wanted to put in. And I can help him tremendously, not only for him to grow, but for the kids to respect and love and things like that. So I think as we're sharing those different examples with you guys, as you're listening to it, start thinking about maybe it's like something like when you were little, you said to yourself, I'll never be like this or be like that particular person. So, what is that culture that you want to instill in your own kids moving forward in life? And put that on paper, actually, and put it in the present tense.
Well, man, so it's interesting. Like I think one of the big things that is a great character trait is how you talk to people and
With
how
an
you
accent.
react to situations. Like, if when someone does something wrong, do you berate them? Do you yell at them? Do you scream at them? Or do you say, hey, listen, like this is unacceptable. We're not going to do it this way. And you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
and so having some level of that, and at the Get a Life Getaway, we do the exercise where we say, hey, design your children's lives. Like, what do you want them to be, do, have, experience? And so like, and by the way, that's a great kind of insight into the culture in your family that you should consider creating and living. I got my little garage gym, right? And my girls will see me working out and they will come in. And now, by the way, like I could be angry and be like, oh, I'm trying to get a workout in here and they're messing with me. Like, but they're like, Daddy, can I do this? And Daddy, can I do that? And I'm like, yeah, cool. So like they're doing their little, pink dumbbells and they're like trying to do chin ups and like sit ups. And it's cool. Like I'm like encouraging them. And we're taking turns. Like I'm like, and they consider themselves my workout buddies. And so I get to show them this kind of stuff. If you want them to be readers, have them see you reading. If you want to, raise them with faith, like, you can do that too. And so like, I think all of this stuff is important. One of the other things that struck me as you were talking, man, is like one of the huge things that I'm trying to instill is a sense of responsibility and accountability. Like
Mm.
nobody made you do that. Your sister, said something mean to you. You don't smack her. Like it's not an excuse. Like that's not acceptable behavior. And so taking responsibility for yourself, like, like today is funny, man. On the way to school, Noelle gets in the car and she's like, I forgot my shoes. We both laughed about it. And she ran out and got her shoes, and she's gonna go to school barefoot. And we're laughing about it. But like, she didn't go like, Daddy, it's your fault. I forgot my shoes. Like you didn't remind me. Like, so we have these chances all the time. And here's the good news too. You're probably not gonna screw it up. Like you might slip,
Mm.
but it's probably not going to screw up your kids or your family for life. Like unless hopefully it's not a big one, right? But like you just do your best. And there's another one too. When you screw up, apologize to your family. Like we think like I'm the parent, I'm not apologizing to my
Even to the
no.
kids. Yeah.
You apologize to your kids.
Mm.
Yeah, like hey, I'm sorry. Daddy got mad, mommy got mad, and we said something, and I raised my voice, and that's not okay. And I want you to know I'm sorry. And like have that humility too, again, because you're trying to show that to them as well.
Yeah. The other thing that popped into my head as you were talking is think about it this way. Like a lot of times when it comes to our kids, we want them to be vulnerable with us. We want them to open up to us. We want them to tell us what's going on in their lives, right? Maybe we need to start that. Maybe we need to be the ones who are being vulnerable first in order for, I do this all the time with, in my groups and things like that. Like, in order for you to get someone to be vulnerable with you, maybe you need to start being vulnerable first. And I'm not telling you that, as you're listening to this, you have to tell your kids everything because, there's a
Yeah,
story
they're not
and
ready for it.
yeah, that some of it they're not ready for, but there's some form of vulnerability that I think needs to be present because they're curious. I mean, they want to grow, and when you start to doing that, I think they start opening up a little bit more because there is no judgment maybe in that space,
Yeah.
and that they can open up. And I've had conversation with my kids when I said, "Listen, I mean, I screwed up, and I screwed up many times in my life, and it's a past. I can't change it. So what do we need to do to move forward? Reconnect, right? And whether it's having a little daddy daughter then date kind of a thing, right? Coffee thing with me that I do, or whatever it might be. So you look from that perspective, and I think it's going to start to bring that culture more and more into the fold. Because think about it this way: at the end of the day, if you don't protect that culture in your family, who will? You know, and
The
there's the
last
world
thing
out
I'd
there.
say, man, the last thing I'd say is consider having a written kind of like family, I don't know what you want to call it, family vision, family,
Credo.
creed. Yeah, like, so this is what our family is about. Here's what we represent. Here's what we believe in, and have that. And we've had many people in life in here do this, and they have it. Maybe they turn it into a poster or they get it framed, and this is our family kind of like manifesto, and it describes what the family is all about, your beliefs, your values, and those kinds of how we treat all these kinds of things, and that can be a great learning tool too, and a reinforcer.
Yeah. So, listen, don't put so much pressure about this conversation. And think about it this way: sit down, depending on how old your kids are, but sit down with them and let's work on this together. Have their input on this. What would they like that culture to be, and discuss it? Why would they want that culture to be this way?
Oh, dude,
As opposed to
yeah, ice cream for dinner, cereal for snack before bed, candy for lunch. This is this is how my kids would do it.
yeah. And listen, I used to when my kids were little. There was, I think, one dinner that we did that was just like at breakfast kind of stuff, just
Oh
pancakes. We
yeah,
did pancakes, you know what I mean, for dinner.
oh yeah,
I
it's
mean,
fun stuff, man. Good
who
stuff.
cares? You know what I mean? But
Have
maybe
fun.
that's part of the culture. So you compromise. They want all of this. How about, well, what if you just pick one? Ice
Yeah.
cream for dinner. Sweet. All right. So what day? Friday. Let's do Friday ice cream for dinner. I don't know. Pretty
Yeah.
soon, maybe they got sick of it and they're like, I don't want more. I just actually want real food, So,
Yeah. Yep. There we go. Well, hope you guys got something out of this. The importance of culture really, again, like this is universal, and it all comes down to how you interact with how you treat people, and who you are as a person, and that all kind of permeates the circles of influence that you have around you. So hope you take advantage of that. Real quick announcement. We did mention the Get a Life Getaway a couple times in this episode. If you haven't been to one of those yet, I'd really encourage you to consider it coming. It's a really, truly life-changing event. We just got done one recently, and it's just, I've been buzzing. And so I've had many people email me, and they've just had insights they've never had in their entire life. And they're just riding high from the information and the inspiration they got from the event. So go to lifeonaire.com to learn more about that. We will see you next week, everyone. Take care.